Good morning, buenos días, bonjour, welcome, bienvenidos. Today, this new ISA webinar is going to be conducted in English, and it's going to be conducted by our board member, Juan Carlos Bonilla. He joined the board in our last board meeting and our last annual general assembly. He is from Guatemala. He joined the association with his school last year in Rwanda, a Montessori school, the Earth School of Africa. And today he is going to talk about global biosafety accreditation for international schools, a strategy for resilience and success. He is the co-founder of the Earth School, the International Montessori School of Rwanda. He has over 25 years of experience in strategic planning and operations, designing and leading projects in the non-profit education and entrepreneurship sectors across Latin America, North America, and Africa. So I think this topic and theme today is very important in our current situation of pandemic, to have safe schools, to have quality security for our parents, for our students, and for our teachers. And I think that now we are in a new era, a new normality, where parents especially are looking for schools with not too much students, not too very big schools, but also schools with short number of students by class, and with all the safety measures and the biosafety measures that we need today, not for this pandemic, but maybe for other things and for other, let's hope not, process and things in the world to come. So I will not take you more time from Juan Carlos. We are open in the chat for the questions. This month we are going also to start with ISA student webinars. We are programming that. And we can answer questions in English and Spanish either way. So I will leave you with Juan Carlos. Thank you for being there, and thank you for this time.
Thank you, Edgardo. As you say, it's a very important time and very critical time. And this topic of biosafety was not in the radar for us in the past, but now it's top and center. Is something that we have in our minds, and just dealing with these issues is going to be critical for the success of our schools. It's a pleasure to be here, and I would like to present a little bit about our case and our experience with certification of biosafety in international schools. I'm going to share now a few slides that I would like to present, and then we can open for questions. All right, so the topic today is the Global Biosafety Accreditation for International Schools, a strategy for resilience and success. I'm going to talk a little bit about the experience of our own school, the Earth School, the International Montessori School of Rwanda, and how we decided to go for biosafety accreditation, and how this experience of our small school can be useful for other schools of the International Schools Association or any other school, any other international school around the world. First of all, I have besides owning a school and being part of the leadership of an international school, I also have a professional interest in the issue of biosafety. In fact, when this crisis started, I was stranded in Guatemala, in my natal country, and I haven't been able to return to our school in Rwanda since then because of travel restrictions. And one thing that this pandemic gave me, at least, was a lot of time for reflection. And my reflection started on thinking whether this was a temporary crisis, something that would move on quickly, or it meant a more deep and profound change. My opinion is that this is not a temporary crisis. This is a paradigm shift in the world to a new economic model. And this new economic model is going to, I think, impact the whole of the world's economy. It has already made major dramatic changes in the way many industries operate. Just think travel industry, just think the hospitality industry, but also it's going to make a major change in the education sector. In April, May, I wrote a short book, an ebook called The Low Contact Economy, and is related to a concept that I thought about, in which the new economy is not necessarily going to be bad, but it's going to be different. And I call it low contact because it's going to focus on how we can be safe, well, how we can maintain a vibrant trade of goods and services, but at the same time, maintain biosafe interpersonal interactions. It must also build trust among customers and employees, and also value resilience as well as efficiency. In the previous economy, the economy that we had until 2020, efficiency and fast business and quick transactions and long distance transactions were paramount. And if you were not globalized, you were not in business. And what we have seen is that this crisis of the pandemic has shifted these values of being efficient to being safe, to being trustworthy, and to being resilient. Offering high quality and low price is still important, but it's not enough if you cannot also offer safety, if you cannot offer you trust, and if your company cannot be also resilient as well as trustworthy. If you would like to read the book, it's a free ebook. You can look it at lowcontacteconomy.com, and it's also in Spanish, economiadebajocontacto.com. So it's a short ebook, and it will give you some reflections that I came up with at the time I was thinking about this topic. And of course, the closest thing to me was the Earth School, our small school in Rwanda. This is an international Montessori school which was founded in Rwanda in 2011. It is pre-kindergarten to 6th grade. It's a primary and pre-primary school. And it's a small school. It's we call it a boutique school because it focuses on high quality and focus on a small number of students. There's a very large ratio of adults to children. And it is, despite having about 70 students every year, it has over 25 nationalities represented, mostly coming from the diplomatic, the non-government organizations, the UN, and transnational companies living in Rwanda. We work on very small groups, so no longer than 12 students, and we have a very complete set of equipment, Montessori equipment and teaching aids, and we follow very closely the Montessori ethos of learning and teaching, and the way it visualizes education as being child-centered. It's also an international-centered school in the sense that we do not focus on one nationality being more represented than the others. And then rather we focus on the interaction of different nationalities and how they can work together in a way that is harmonious, respectful, and learning from each other. Furthermore, it's also a green school. We are a green campus, even though we are in the middle of a city, and we have embedded into our curriculum the values of One Earth and the values of protecting the environment and respecting the whole living community of the planet. So that's our school. And there's some pictures here. It's a very beautiful campus in the center of Kigali, the city, the capital of Rwanda. Now, you might have heard of Rwanda. It was in the news in the 1990s due to the genocide. It was a very difficult time at the time then in the 90s. A lot of people were killed during the internecine wars and the genocide against the Tutsi. And you could imagine that this is a difficult place to live and work. However, you would be surprised. Over 20 years after the genocide, Rwanda is an African success story. It shows high economic growth. It has been growing on the 8th and from 6 to 8% every year for the last 15 years. It has high social development, environmental awareness, and security. Kigali is regularly cited as the cleanest city in Africa, one of the cleanest and safest cities in the world. It has strict health and safety standards and a very effective and efficient public service. When the COVID-19 pandemic started in the beginnings of January and February, we already began to make preparations. In our school, we started already having getting prepared for a potential expansion of the pandemic beyond the borders of China, where it started. We began preparing with protective equipment and changing protocols, etc. And once it started in March, with the first case on March 13th, 2020, the country immediately went into lockdown. Classes were suspended. March 13 was a Friday. The classes were suspended for the following Monday, and we started our online education on Wednesday of that week. So we were ready, and so was the Rwandan government. They have managed to contain the pandemic. They made very, very strict measures of quarantine, testing, tracing, and isolation, and they have been achieving extraordinary results in terms of managing the number of contagions, the number of deaths, and they are slowly reopening the economy. Just recently, the conversation has become about when the schools will reopen. And at that time, we have also begun our preparations for an eventual reopening of in-person classes. The school, as all schools in the country, went online on March 16th. We finished the 2020-2021 school year in June as an online with online classes, and we restarted in the end of August, beginning of September, with also online education. And we are just in the process now of ensuring that the government guidelines are implemented in the school so that we can reopen in-person classes, we hope, within the next few weeks. Now, I would like to talk about the Global Biorisk Advisory Council, which is the international organization that the Air School was partnered with in order to get its certification, of its Biorisk certification. The Global Biorisk Advisory Council is an international organization. It has offices in the United States, in Europe, in Asia, in Australia, and in China. And it is a division of ISSA, the International Sanitation Service Association. And it is a group of experts that are focused on biorisk since quite a bit of time. Now, with the beginning of the pandemic, they created a certification, an accreditation called Backstar. And this is an accreditation that is organized around the concept of clean, safe facilities. It's not an accreditation for businesses or persons or companies, but it's an accreditation for facilities. And it's centered around 20 program elements that we're going to show in a few minutes. It has been adopted by major companies, airlines, such as American Airlines, hotel chains such as Hyatt, convention centers such as the Las Vegas Convention Center, the Javits Center in New York, the Staples Centers, etc., and airports such as the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. So this is a global organization working with massive corporations in ensuring their biosafety and helping them prepare for opening or reopening their operations if they had been closed due to the lockdowns of the pandemic. When we approached them, we were a bit worried because, remember, we are a small school, a 70 student school in somewhere in East Africa. But we learned very soon that they are that biosafety is not only for large companies, and that their program, the 20 program elements, can be scaled up for a massive organization such as American Airlines, but also can be scaled to the needs and the specific characteristics of a small operation like ours. So it's scalable across the different sizes of companies. When we contacted them, they were quite interested because they were just then starting to focus on schools. They did not have yet a complete program for schools, and they were really pleased that we were approaching them. And their school was among the first in the world to commit to achieve Backstar certification, certainly the first in Africa. Let me describe a little bit what the Backstar facility seal means. But first, let me explain why we chose to pursue this certification for the school. First of all, to increase biosafety in our operation, we certainly value biosafety as a value in itself. We believe that schools must be safe for the children, safe for the families, safe for the staff, and contribute to the overall safety of our community. But we also thought that not only doing the proper biosafety things and follow the appropriate protocols and doing the activities that are necessary was sufficient. We also wanted to build trust and confidence in the school community. And this is one of the values that I mentioned in the low contact economy book is that you not only need to do everything that is necessary, you need to be able to communicate that to your constituency, being that your customers, your staff, and the rest of the community. And if you have a board or you have stockholders, you also need to communicate to them that you are indeed doing what you need to do. It's not just enough to do it, you need to also show it and help them gain and develop that trust and confidence that your company or your school is doing this. We saw the Backstar as a brand that was coherent with the brand differentiation of our school. As I said, ours is a boutique school focused on high quality, intense focus on achieving the best possible operation, even if it's a small operation. And we see ourselves as examples, not only in our community, but to our own students, our children, of what social and environmental responsibility means, not in words, but in action. And also that it was an innovative way of approaching things. A school that is certified at the same level as an international airline or an international airport was a bit of a novel concept, and we think is a proper way to go. GBAC is a recognized international brand with well-known companies already adopting the standards. And we also believe that this would send a signal to regulatory agencies and the general public of the school's commitment to biosafety. We started this process way before the government authorities in Rwanda were beginning to think on how to operate, to reopen schools. It's only now that they are getting comfortable with the idea, now that they feel that the pandemic is well contained in the country, and now they're sending the regulations or the guidelines for reopening. We were ahead of the curve, so to speak, by engaging with GBAC before, and also we think we sent the signal that we were really serious. We were not going to be obliged or forced to follow regulations. We were imposing regulations on ourselves to a high international standard, and certainly very happy to comply with whatever regulations the regulatory agencies will require from us. In the practical side, access to the Backstar gave us access to handbooks and protocols for school biosafety, which is based on the emerging best practices. In fact, they have been shifting slowly as new information becomes available from the various scientific organizations that are researching the pandemic, the latest scientific knowledge on how the virus is transmitted and how it can be defeated in an environment or in a space is incorporated into the handbooks and protocols that we have available. And finally, we also had tools, access to tools that can be used for training all our staff, our management, our teachers, and our custodians, which are at the end the ones that are in charge of making sure the space is completely safe. So there's a host of benefits that we saw in choosing not only to pursue biosafety as a strategy, but also to seek certification at a high international standard. These are the Backstar program elements. There are 20 elements in total, divided in groups. The first group is facility leadership, commitment, and planning. And this is where the organization, the school, commits to achieve biosafety and to follow and plan appropriately. It has stuff such as organizational roles, the responsibilities, who is in charge, the commitment of the facility to biosafety, the commitment to sustainability and continuous improvement, and conformity and compliance to the local regulatory framework, to your own internal standard operating procedures, and to the international standards as they come as part of the GBAC plan. We also need to develop very clear goals and strategies that have been predefined with measurable targets, with controls and monitoring of what those targets, how these targets have been achieved, how you need to make a risk assessment of where the risk may come from. In our case, well, it comes from the people that may come into the school. And then develop standard operating procedures that tell you step by step of how things are done in the school. And the standard operating procedures are matched with the risks, to focus on those risks, and designed to achieve the predetermined objectives, which in turn are monitored through your system. It's a very, very straightforward, organized risk, response, action, measure, result list. It also talks a little bit about your supplies and inventory management. What tools and equipment do you need? We're not talking, you could have very sophisticated tools, or you could have very simple tools. You can have buckets and cleaning supplies, or you could have ozone or UV light or air purifiers in your air conditioning system of high-tech HEPA level filters, etc. It doesn't really, the response matches the risk. In our case, we have a very small number of students, very small traffic in the school, a very, very open facility that has natural ventilation. So our response to the threat or the risk and the tools that we use are matched to what we have and what we need to achieve. It has cleaning and disinfection chemicals that are used. We used EPA or FDA-approved chemicals to clean. How do you maintain inventory and control and management of those cleaning supplies? What personal protective equipment is used in the building? In our case, we use face masks, we use face shields, and that is the standard that we use. If we were to use more aggressive cleaning supplies, or for example, then our staff would need to use additional protective equipment. But in our case, because of the kind of products that we use for cleaning, it's considered not necessary. So we match the risk with the response. And then waste management. What do you do with all the stuff that you are discarding? How is it managed, handled, packed, enveloped, and handled by a third-party company that takes the charge of managing those waste after it leaves the school. Then training, preparation, and prevention. How we train our personnel, what are the competencies that they have, how are we prepared for emergencies? We had already an emergency preparedness plan that took into account other risks such as fire, earthquake, etc. But now we have one that is dealing specifically with biorisk. What are the prevention practices against infection? And then what is our worker health program? In our case, we have a nurse in our school. Even though we have a small staff, one of our staff members is a professional nurse who has a link with the Ministry of Health and is the one that is the person in charge for ensuring our worker health program. And finally, the constant vigilance. Once you have your plans, once you have everything in place, you achieve your star GBAC Star Facility seal, you don't end there. This is a continuous improvement plan and continuous vigilance. How do you inspect? How do you audit what you're doing? How do you control the suppliers? And how you document everything that happens in your school? So these 20 elements look like a lot of complexity and work, and it could if your operation is large and complex, but it can also be extraordinarily straightforward because it is, again, matched to the scale of your operation. In our case, we do have our handbook, which is about 20 pages long, that contains all these elements. We take into account all these elements, and is something that is very clear, very concise, very to the point, and very easy to understand by our staff, by regulators, by parents, and so we can really be very effective in achieving the objectives that we have set up to achieve. So how do you, if you are a school, how do you obtain the GBAC Star Facility access? Well, first of all, the application process is at the bottom of the screen. You decide to apply. You contact GBAC through their website. You submit an application and a deposit, which is 50% of the cost of your accreditation. You receive the handbook and guidelines. At that point, you can announce. We did a very nice press release, which was very well received by the community, that shows that our school was committed to achieve this. Then you work in your handbook and documentation. You submit it to GBAC, and then you receive your accreditation. It takes from 2 to 4 weeks after you send your documentation for your organization to receive the GBAC Star accreditation. At that point, you have done the work, and you continue to do the work. In terms of cost, the rate for a school is $1 per student. If your school is like ours, a regular school without major facilities. But if you have something like a stadium, an Olympic sports pool, or a performing arts building like a theater or any other big special building, then your rate would go up to $1.50 per student. There is a minimum and a maximum. So the minimum it costs is $500 in either case, and the maximum that they would charge is $15,000. If you have, say, 15,000 students in your school or 16,000 students, then your price would be $15,000. But for an small independent school such as ours, that we have below 500 students, we pay the minimum price, the $500. We paid $250 at the inception of the application process, and the $250 balance would be due at when we finally receive the GBAC Star once the documentation has been evaluated, if there's any feedback or any changes that need to be done, and then that is the total cost. That is the cost for 1 year. The following year, you would need to pay again for the process to be continued. And if there's any changes to your documentation, you will also be required to update your paperwork. So all in all, I think it's in our case, I think it provided extraordinary value. It was something that was very well recognized by the community. Parents were very satisfied to see that we were being very proactive to look into the issues of biosafety even before it was a time for thinking on reopening. And now we are in the process of the process led by the Rwandan government to initiate the process for reopening face-to-face classes in schools, and having the GBAC Star, because we did this several weeks ago, and we committed to do everything, and we began installing, for example, the hand washing stations, and we already had a stockpile of our cleaning supplies and the personal protective equipment, and we already had the protocols, we already had the training, so when the guidelines from the government came, they contained similar things. In fact, I certainly, the minimum required by the government is we by far surpass it with the things that we committed ourselves in our own plan through the Backstar, with the help of the GBAC manuals. So we were really, really prepared. At the time the inspection came, we had everything in place. There was no need for us to scramble to add something or change something, because this is state of the art in terms of biosafe schools. So when the regulations come, or if you already have the regulations, you are expected to match the regulations of the regulatory agencies in where your school is, and then add more, because you're expected to go beyond the minimum to achieve the Backstar facility. But again, it's nothing that cannot be done. We did it with a very small school, with a small staff. We have 15 people employed by the school, and 70 students. So it can be done by a small organization. If you have a larger school, of course, your plans will be more complex, but also you may have additional human resources to do the work. So furthermore, because this GBAC is still beginning to work with schools, they asked us to help revise and further develop the handbook for schools, which we are, we will provide feedback on how we did it, and the materials that we have prepared might be incorporated into the Backstar accreditation standards. I spoke with them just after we began this process, and I mentioned that we were part of that International Schools Association, and they are really interested in reaching out to organizations such as ISA to promote the adoption of the Backstar accreditation if schools are interested. And I am developing tools that will help, based on our experience, adapt and thrive in the new economic environment, including tools to assess preparedness, tools to improve biosafety and resilience, and also tools to facilitate the obtaining the Backstar accreditation. They have their own tools. GBAC has their own tools, but now we at their school, through our own experience, we have also developing tools that could be useful for your school. To, if you're interested on getting Backstar accreditation, we could also be of help to facilitate your own process. Obviously, our experience will be different. Your experience will be different to ours, but having one school that has already gone through the process could be very useful for your own experience. So if you're interested in learning more about Backstar accreditation, or in general about preparedness, biosafety, risk analysis, and school resilience, I'm happy to be of help. You can reach me at this email address, jcbonilla@theearthschoolafrica.com. So with that, I end my presentation. I hope this is of interest and help for you. And we are we're here if you would like to have any questions, or in the future contact me for any conversation you might want to have regarding this topic. Thank you.
Many thanks, Juan Carlos. I think this is very interesting. We have some questions from Uruguay, and the question is if it focuses on primary levels too.
Okay. What is the question again?
If the accreditation focuses on primary levels, I think it's a whole school accreditation, right?
Yes, it's you can. In fact, it's not oriented to schools. It's a general accreditation for facility preparedness. So this is the same kind. The same 20 standards apply if you're an airline, a hotel, a convention center, a municipal building, even some. For example, Dallas, the Dallas Historic District is looking for accreditation as a tourist destination. So it does apply to your school no matter the size. It's small or big, kindergarten, large secondary school. It's the same. You still need to achieve the 20 objectives, but the 20 objectives are tailored to your specific operation. So yes.
Great. Also, how much time was the accreditation? So how much time do you have to do the accreditation? How much time it lasted? Like you start, for example, in a school.
Well, it can be, it depends on the level of preparedness. In our case, we already had, we have a very compact operation, and we already had lots of safety and preparedness standards in place. So we essentially took whatever we had, compared it with the GBAC, and it for us 2-3 weeks, I guess, for the process, and then sending the documentation, and then it's there. It takes 2 to 4 weeks for them to review and get the whatever feedback they have. So it really depends, but I think the shortest timeline is like you do it in 2 weeks in your school, and then you wait 4 weeks or 2 weeks for them, so a month. But it might go to a month and a half if they take 4 weeks, or it can go more if you have a large school with a very complex operation, multiple locations, etc. It can take longer, but it doesn't need to.
Great. So she clarified that the question was about the school. You have a K3 to K12, or you have only primary levels at the
their school it's a pre-kinder to grade 6. It's a primary and pre-primary school. We do not have middle school or high school.
Okay. I'm looking at if we have more questions. I think that when you spoke about the country and about how Rwanda in Africa and Eastern Africa is one of the countries that has growth in safety, and in those terms, I think it's a model and a very proactive country and a role model for different countries in the world. For example, third world countries or countries that are struggling with difficulties with wars, especially what happened in Rwanda in the 90s, right? And I think in that sense, going ahead and thinking about biorisk safety is very important. And it's in that case, I congratulate you. And I think we as ISA need to copy this model in all the network and offer them to schools, right?
Thank you. Yeah, the Rwanda is a very special case because it's, again, very, very effective governance and really, really disciplined civil service, and also a population that is very, very disciplined too, in following safety and security measures in general. There's a culture of kind of playing by the rules. Just to imagine the numbers. In Rwanda, the first case was in March 13th, and since then till now, which is what, over 100 days or more. Now it's a lot more than that. They have had a total of less than 5,000 cases and less than 30 deaths. So if you compare that to like my own country, Guatemala, we had the first case on the same day. I remember very clearly Friday the 13th of March was the first case in Guatemala. In Guatemala, we have 90,000 cases and over 3,000 deaths. So orders of magnitude of difference, and certainly the difference has been, in my opinion, the first of all, the preparedness of the government, and also the discipline of the population, which is something that is truly admirable. So there's, I think, lessons for for all of us as countries to follow those countries that have been very, very effective on managing this pandemic. It takes everyone. It cannot be done by government alone, cannot be done by the population alone. Needs to be a lot of work by everybody. And in our case, in our school, is something that we take very seriously. Certainly, no one wants a case in a school, and we have had up till now only online operation. But once we start in-person classes, we certainly want to have taken every possible precaution and involving everyone, from every student, every teacher, every manager, every service person in the school, and every family, to be completely focused on this, to make sure, because it will affect everyone, if something happens.
Yes, I agree. Do you have any resistance of your staff or managing team when you want to implement this accreditation?
No, we didn't. But I think that is because we already had a really strong culture of safety and security at the school. This is something that we had done in the past. We do have even before the pandemic, we had a very, very strict kind of sneezes policy, in the sense of, we did not want to have even seasonal colds to expand through the school. So we were very, very strict on sending kids to school, back home, if they were ill or showing any symptoms of even seasonal colds. And we had a really strong hand washing culture. We had hand washing stations everywhere. We had the song. We had the proper washing, 20-second washing. All that was in place way before we ever heard of the pandemic. And that was to prevent seasonal cold diseases. In a preschool and a primary school, this is something that you see like every day. So it's something that needs to be done. And we did have some parents had a different vision sometime of, well, he's fine, but we were very strict with it. And eventually, as you were consistent, it sort of permeated the school. So when this thing came, it was like, well, now we can see why it was so important, because not all colds are trivial. You could have a respiratory infection that can be very, very serious, such as this. So no, we haven't had any resistance. In fact, what we have had is a sense of I think it's a sense of relief that the school is very serious on taking care of the safety of children and staff and everyone.
And how my next question is, how did the parents get involved in this accreditation? Do they have a participation? You did a meeting and explain everything to them, or the school did it and then informed the parents the new standards?
Well, there are several ways of doing it. In our case, we did not do an overall meeting. It was very complicated because we could not have meetings in person. So what we did is we explained that we were doing, and we received help from some parents that got involved, but as in a volunteer way. We had one parent that is an architect, and she is she was actually a specialist on. She is actually a specialist on COVID prevention in other buildings. So she had professional experience. She conducted for us a pro bono inspection of the school and provided some help with our plan. And her input was included in the plan. But this was, I think, was a streak of luck. I'm not sure everyone would have in their parent body an architect that is a specialist in COVID prevention measures. But you never know. I think my suggestion is to involve, but particularly involve those parents that have professional backgrounds that can provide specific input into your plan. Certainly, once the plan is ready, you need to socialize it and share it with parents so that they can be aware of what is going on and understand their part in it.
Yes, of course, I agree. I have another question. How did you cope with online learning at preschools level?
Well, this was quite complicated. Edna, my wife, she's the expert on this now. She's not here today, but it took us. We were getting ready for that when the first case happened, and then we had to really rush to get it out. So we had a meeting on that Sunday with the teachers to prepare the materials, and then on Wednesday we were out. It was complicated, particularly with the younger children who have not much experience with electronics, etc. We have done it in two different ways. The first way, we tried to do it a synchronous way, which means that we had trying to replicate the day of the school through starting at 8 a.m. and then having circle time, and then another at 12, and then another one at 3 o'clock, and activities in between. And we got some mixed results with that. We had a survey with parents, and that was something that was creating some difficulty for parents because they were also working and they could not really match the pace of the school. So now, after the summer break and starting in the new year, we started using a different method, which was to still have circle time at the beginning, circle time at the end, but also record it. So if parents cannot help the children be in front of the computer at that time, they can see it later on their own time. We also provided a kit that was sent to homes, which contained written and tactile material. It contained some school supplies. And then also we identified activities that could be done with materials that can be found in the household. Montessori is a very unique pedagogy, and it has, for example, a topic or an area that is called practical life, which involves helping children do things for their own independence. And so, for example, they learn to clean themselves, they learn to get dressed, etc. And those things can be done in home with home materials. So it requires quite a bit of creativity, but I think our teachers were very fantastic on helping devise new ways of doing things. Right now, we're very happy with the way it's going. I think we have received very positive feedback from parents, and also even parents who had constructive feedback from the first phase are happy now that we have incorporated their recommendations. So my recommendation for schools is listen to parents. We did a formal survey, and we also asked the teachers to provide us, as soon as they received any positive or constructive feedback, to help us tweak and adapt to the needs. But the biggest challenge is the time of parents. Also, our school had no Montessori schools tend to not have electronics in the classroom, so we did not have any phones or screens or computers, iPads or anything in the classroom before. So it's been quite a bit of a change.
Yes, I agree. I agree to adapt the pedagogy of Montessori to online learning. It's very tough, but I think you manage very good. And well, I think there's
software. We found a software. If somebody wants, if there's another Montessori school that would like to try it, it's called SEESAW, SEESAW for schools, and that worked for us. We beta tested it over the summer, and now we introduced it in this school year, and it's working quite well. Of course, you need to adapt to it, but it does include. It takes into consideration Montessori, the Montessori approach to education, and it's been quite helpful for us.
Well, Juan Carlos, we are arriving to the end of this webinar. Thank you very much. I think it was very enlightening, and I think it's a step forward and a step ahead of what we have to do in schools in order to prevent Biorisk, pandemics, and different things. And I think it's very valuable to parents when they are thinking in sending a kid and to school again in a presential form. That is what they are willing to do, but we need to take measures in order for them to be safe, for the teachers to be safe, and also for the parents to be safe. So thank you very much. If you want to say something to say goodbye, from my part, thank you, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Again, let me reiterate the invitation to any schools that would like to go through this process. I'm happy to help. Please contact us. We are blazing the path, so to speak, and there's quite valuable lessons that we have learned to take them to demystify this global accreditation. Is something that can be achieved and is well worth the effort. Thank you so much for having me, and we look forward to continue collaborating with the International School Association. Thank you, Edgardo, and thank you, everyone. Good day.
Thank you.